and then they asked where my office location was, and I didn't have an office because I was doing everything. My business was registered at my house, and they realized I was working from home, and they stopped taking me serious, and that was that. So long story short, I ended up driving an Uber for 3 months in 2016. I put my car on Uber, and that's what I was doing to pay the bills for a while. Um, Fast forward, start of 2017, I went back to full-time employment. I became a manager at a digital agency called Acquiring Digital Estates, ADE. Used to be in Lekki Phase One. And then in March that year, I saw this advert one day. The advert said that there's a new political satire show that's going to be on Channels TV, and they're looking for script writers and that sort of thing. And it looked very interesting to me because political satire obviously is a medium that was like almost unheard of in Nigeria. Like I used to watch a lot of the Daily Show, which with Jon Stewart and then Trevor Noah later on. So I knew what it was, but I knew it wasn't a popular like genre in Nigeria. So I put in an application. They asked for a sample script. I sent one in, and I forgot about it. And then a couple of months later, I think this was like April, they sent me another email. They're like, they really, really, really like my script. They want me to do another one. So I did another one, and they were like, right, we're going to take you on. So I think it was June 2nd was when I had that phone call where they brought me on. I actually became the very first member of the team to sign a contract on the show that later became The Other News with Oke Bakassi on Channels TV. And then the day after that, my dad died. And a lot of things changed in my life when my dad died. It, I don't really want to go into that, but my entire outlook on what I wanted from life, my view of Nigeria, everything changed. Not just because he died, but the circumstances under which he died, and the extent to which I felt like Nigeria insulted him and insulted me. Right. Because like bear in mind, this was someone that in Naira terms, he was a billionaire. Right. And the way he died, it was just so disrespectful. Like it was like a cockroach fell on the floor and died. Something. It was just so unbelievable. Like this can happen to this man. Like what kind of place am I actually living in? And that created this mind shift for me. Like almost like sort of like activist energy that that you can probably observe till today. That's probably where it started. That's when for the first time I realized that I wasn't insulated from Nigeria. So I was at Channels TV between 2017 and 2018. When I left in 2018, this time I left to set up my own copywriting agency. This time it took off because I wasn't trying to work with Nigerian clients. I had a foreign client base. I was making I was making some good money. I had people. I had at my peak, I had 5 people working for me. At my peak, I was doing some really good numbers. But then in 2019, I think it was shortly after the election in 2019, the election between Abubakar Atiku and Muhammadu Buhari. I got the opportunity to do like this really long op-ed for one of the platforms that I was working for at the time. It was a platform called CCN. And I did an op-ed about the Nigerian election. Bear in mind, this was for an American audience, right? So because I didn't really think that my kind of writing had an audience in Nigeria, right? I was doing a lot of work for like Yahoo Finance, those kinds of platforms that Americans and Europeans read. I wasn't doing for Nigerian audience. But for whatever reason, that story became really popular in Nigeria. I think that was the first thing I ever did that anybody ever knew who I was in Nigeria. I was far better known outside of Nigeria than I was in Nigeria. I mean, I'd already been covered in a New Yorker magazine. I had an appearance on Netflix at that point, but nobody in Nigeria knew who I was. So, but I think that was the first time that I did something, and somebody started to recognize that, okay, who is this guy? So a couple of uh, people in the media space in Nigeria started reaching out. The Scoop, it is a defunct platform now. There's a platform called The Scoop. They reached out first. Then Business Day reached out. A couple of other Vanguard reached out as well. So I started doing like just columns. It wasn't investigative journalism. I was just writing opinions, analysis, columns, right? Because that's what I was good at. And then that all changed in August 2019 when a lady called Mercy Abang, and it's impossible to tell my story without talking about Mercy because, like, if wherever I get to in life, she played a very large part in it. Like, there's no way I'm going to tell this story that she's not she doesn't factor heavily in it. So Mercy owns a platform called Newswire, newswirenGL.com. So as at July 2019, you might remember that there was a story about this thing called the Abuja raids, where young women in Abuja were being basically abducted off the streets and locked up in police cells. They were getting raped. All sorts of crazy stuff was happening. So She had managed to meet with a couple of victims. She had got some of their testimonies, right? So initially, what she wanted to do was just do like a human angle story on what happened to them, because one of them was actually in court with the agency, that's the Abuja Environmental Protection Bureau. So she just wanted to do like a human angle story to support this lady's legal case, and she thought that the way I wrote was powerful. So she just contacted me, like she just wanted me to write the story. That's all. It wasn't an investigation. But then when I saw everything she had and the quality of receipts that she had and the recordings and everything, I thought to myself, I can do more with this than just write a simple human interest feature story. I can do more than that. So then I started trying to do some digging. Who this person who is actually behind this Abuja Environmental Protection Bureau, who is he or she? And it turned out to be a lady called Hajia Safia Umar. Then I was, from there, I just sort of went down this rabbit hole and I just couldn't stop finding out more and more and more information. I became a little bit obsessed with the story. And eventually, when I put it out, this was, I think, September 2019, it had this really huge reception. I think that at that point, that was like the most impactful thing I'd ever done. Because a couple of months later, in November 2019, when Justice Binta Mutana Nyarko delivered her verdict on that case involving the lady who I named as Judith in my story. That wasn't her real name, but the lady in the story, the court judgment actually cited my article amongst others. So I think at that point, that was when that light bulb went off above my head. That wow, this is that thing that I've always thought that I can do, that difference I've always like to make, and that sort of, I don't know if I should call it a rush, but that feeling of purpose that I've always been looking for. This is it. Like I did something and it had some kind of an effect. Like that's a big deal. And that was when it wasn't the first time I was trying to do something investigative, because I had done the story the month before on Badagry General Hospital, but that was like a relatively small, like local story. But this had like national impact. And then I looked at it and I was like, right, this is what I want to do. So I literally went, I shut down my copyright. I didn't shut it down. If you check the CAC record, it still exists. It's still an active business, but I don't trade with it anymore. I basically let everybody go so that I could just focus on this one thing. And this is what I want to do. I want to be an investigative journalist, right? I believe that there's nobody else who is willing to not just do certain kinds of digging, but also to tell stories, and not just tell the stories, but tell them in a certain way, tell them with a certain energy and with a certain cadence that is sort of like really like uncompromising. Nobody else really does that. And I felt as if Nigeria has a deficit of like truth. Basically, there's too much BS floating around in Nigeria. Everybody, there's too much political correctness. Like something bad has happened, but because your editor or whoever, or you're friends with this person, you can't say that something bad has happened. And I just thought that's not what I think the case should be. Again, it all goes back to my experience with watching my dad die and the mind shift that created in me, and the way I just realized how unimportant everything really is, and how important it is to make sure that whatever it is you are doing, you can justify it to yourself. Because when you're dying, that's all you're going to remember, the things that you did. So 2020 was when I set out in full, like, okay, this is what I am doing. Like this was my main activity now. It wasn't what I was doing to pay my bills. I was still doing like my copywriting gigs on the side. I was still making some decent money, but I was focusing entirely on Newswire at the time. So I had a contract with Newswire. I was to produce 5 investigative stories a month. The money was peanuts. It was chicken change. Let's get that out of the way. It was like 20K per story, but I wasn't doing it for the money, right? I was doing it because I thought that these stories are going to have an impact, and they did. So in May 2020, for example, no, it was April 2020, during the COVID-19 lockdown, when the House of Reps was trying to smuggle through the so-called NCDC Act, which was essentially going to abrogate all of like Nigeria's civil and constitutional freedoms, like freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, that sort of thing. And I was able to get hold of that draft legislation. I think when it had just got to the third reading, and I spent a night like doing a deep dive into it, and I put it out. And that story that I did ended up being a story that stopped that legislation dead in its tracks. And because of that story I did, it wasn't passed. And I later ended up winning an award for that story, actually, the 2020 People Journalism Prize for Africa, but that comes later. So like Newswire was pretty much, I didn't really see anything beyond Newswire at the point. It was like, well, Mercy, I have a fantastic relationship with Mercy. Newswire gives me a significant amount of editorial freedom. This is fine. I can do this and just be doing my copywriting on the side, and I'll be fine with this. And then October 2020 happened, NSAS, and life changed because at that point I had to leave the country because the story that I did at that time basically implicated the government. Um, it basically stated who was responsible for sabotaging the what's it called, the fiber optic network on the night of the Lekki massacre, which was the reason why everyone had internet had slow or non-existent internet that night. And I knew that once I put the story out, the DSS is going to want to know who my source is. And they're not going to hear that, oh, it's I just happen to know someone at MTN or whatever. They're going to want to know who the source is, and people are going to get in trouble because of it. So I had to leave the country. I didn't really think it was going to, I didn't know what I thought, how I thought it was going to turn out, but I just said, right, let me just go away and observe for a while. And a week turned into a month, turned into 3 months, turned into a year. And I slowly just dawned on me that my life in Nigeria is never, ever, 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 ever coming back. The life I had, I'm never, ever going to get it back. So I was like, you know what? Since that's what it is, let's cuckoo die here. So in April last year, I saw, there was actually someone on Twitter who tagged me in it, actually. There was a program called Substack Local. Now, Substack is a newsletter platform. I was aware of Substack already. In fact, I'd registered a Substack newsletter, but I hadn't published anything on it. It didn't even have a proper name. The name I gave it was a joke. It was called Another Boring Generic Newsletter. That's what it was called. And I hadn't published anything on it. And then I saw a program called Substack Local, and it was essentially like an accelerator program to foster local news publications around the world with some funding attached to it as well. So I applied. They said they got something like 3,000 applications from around the world or something, and they only selected one person from the whole of Africa, and it was me. So that was where West Africa Weekly came from. That was the origin of West Africa Weekly, and so they gave me. I mean, compared to what the Americans got, what I got was chicken change, but it was very useful, right? Because that also helped me launch the publication, pay the graphic designer and editor, all of those things, while I was still doing my work on the side. And I decided that this platform, if you read my pin tweet, the post which is on my pin tweet, the launch post was where I laid out my vision for what West Africa Weekly would be. That it would be solid investigative journalism delivered in a very, very millennial voice. So if you're familiar with how the voice that Vice News writes in, or Zero Hedge, that sort of voice, which is almost unheard of in Nigeria. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to push the envelope, push the boundaries for what journalism is allowed to look and sound and feel like in Nigeria, because I felt like journalism in West Africa is it's very unprogressive, it's very conservative, very staid, very boring, actually. And I feel as if the death of information is boredom. When the audience cannot assimilate information because it's boring them to tears, I feel like you are killing information no matter how important it is. So it has to be delivered with a certain cadence, which is not to say that the purpose of delivering information is to entertain the audience. No, but the audience has to be able to engage with it. And that's what West Africa Weekly set out to do from day one. So which is partly why, even though it's called West Africa Weekly, I publish one because the amount of effort and time that goes into producing these stories means that realistically, I can only produce one story a month. And obviously, I don't really have that big a team around me. It's a team of like three, really. And I'm the only full time member of the team. There, the other two are part time. So it is what it is. But I think in over the past year and a half, we've achieved some stunning successes. Actually, maybe not so much in terms of winning awards and whatnot, but those are not the metrics by which you measure the impact of journalism, right? There are other more useful metrics, such as the outcomes that these stories have had. So, for example, a story that I did a couple of months ago, I think this was in May, a story about loan sharks in Nigeria. where as against just telling the same story that has been told 1,000 times in other places about how loan sharks sent horrible messages to this person tried to kill himself, and that's the end of that. And you call on the government to do something. Instead, I said it's possible to go a bit deeper to find out who is actually behind these things, not just who the foreign entities are, because we know that they're Chinese, but who their operational arm is in Nigeria. And I was able to find out through the network of informants that thankfully I've been able to build, that it was actually Philips Consulting. And then from there, I was able to sort of build a case and put that story out. And as a result of that story, which obviously nobody else should have, because the involvement of Philips Consulting was top secret. Nobody was supposed to know. But as a result of that story, you might have seen a couple of weeks ago, the NISTA, FCCPC, the CBN, they all took regulatory action based on that story. So Philips Consulting is being probed currently as we speak. And the banks that offer banking services to these loan sharks, they have also been, they have been instructed to stop by the CBN. Some of them are also facing a probe. And the payment processors like Paystack and Flutterwave have also been instructed to stop processing payments for these guys. So as we speak, in some cases, instead of the loan sharks being able to collect payments as they used to, like automatically from people's cards as they used to, as we speak now, someone was in my DM a few days ago. They are sending people threatening messages and asking them to go in to the bank branch and pay into certain accounts over the counter, because they can no longer access Flutterwave and Paystack. And that's a result of the work that West Africa Weekly did. So I'm very proud of that. So that's kind of like investigative journalist at large. So I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it does perfectly. In fact, wow,
Hello.
What a journey. Hello. I said it perfectly does answer the question. What a journey. And I saw how you
Judith.
moved from Ekiti. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, Judith, I can hear you.
Okay.
You hear me?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Tolu, maybe you should take it up. Let me see, check on my...
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Tolu isn't here.
We can hear you, David. Can I go on? Hello?
Judith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think you're the only one that can hear David, because I cannot seem to hear him. So please just carry on. This Twitter is doing what it knows how to do best, what it knows how to do best, rather. So please just carry on while Tolu comes back to the space.
Okay then. So David, I would like you to share with us here how the burden...
Sorry, it appears I have a network interruption. At what point did you lose me?
We didn't lose you. We heard you throughout till the time you even asked. I hope that answers the question. Hello? David, can you say something like say hello? Maybe let's check if we can hear you again. Hello? So, Wayme, can you hear me? Please, if you can hear me, can you...
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, great. And then we need to confirm if we can hear David. David, please, can you put up an emoji or say hello? Okay, network issues. Okay, so we'll wait for David to come back in. He's dropped to the listener section.
Hi, Judith. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So I guess we're trying to wait for David to join us again.
Yes, so let's hold on a little while.
Okay, okay. It was quite an interesting story. If I'll use that word
Yes, deeply interested.
that he gave to us. The progression from learning and then becoming the things that he has learned, and also choosing his own path. We're talking about the burden of truth, and I can't wait for us to dig deeper into how this translates into our society. Of course, he has started touching on that, showing us the impacts of his work, in the private sector, in the public sector. But then there are things and that leads me to the next question I would love to ask David, but I'd like him to be here before I ask that question. Anyways, while we wait for him, I would also like our listeners to know that you can become a speaker and ask a question to David. The topic we're considering is the burden of truth in Nigeria. And of course, we have David Hundeyin, who is an award-winning writer and journalist, a researcher with a background in marketing, politics, and business consulting. Of course, very famous for his recent works that exposes the ills in the public sector and even the private sector. So David is in a very good position to speak a lot about this kind of topic. Yes, and of course, I hope that it inspires a whole lot of people to uphold truth. Because what is a government if we do not know how to welcome or embrace the truth? So we're still waiting for David to join us again because he's our main guest tonight, and it would take on some questions from us, the host or the co-hosts, as well as you, the listeners. So you can also just pen down your questions. We have 2 minutes for each person that'll be asking the question, and would love to hear what you have to say. I hope that David is able to join us very soon. I really do hope so, so we can get down to this. It's 30 minutes gone into the conversation already, and it's been a great one. Judith, are you still here?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay.
And I can't wait for us to look at the burden of truth. I know how difficult or how daunting it can be to expose what people don't want to talk about. And the culture is very, very prevalent, and it cuts across the corporate working sector, the government sector. And when you are someone who bears truth, you are seen as a rebel or as someone who is troublesome. Say, that person in pidgin parlance, they will say, that person too like wahala. I beg. Now wetin I go eat? I dey find though. I no come here, come do wahala. So they literally just among as workers, even if you're in the place of work and you spot a wrong accounting system or the way a process in the organization is being done or executed, even in financial management of projects, and you want to speak about it, you're labeled as looking for trouble, that let sleeping dogs lie. So this culture is very, very deep seated in our country, Nigeria.
Yeah.
And so I think that whilst we wait for David to come on, people have experiences to share.
Yeah.
People have stories to bring up, or even how David's previous works exposing the rot in so many practices in Nigeria have something to say. I think we should bring them up at this point. Let them share their own experiences. Let them say how, like someone said sent a message and said, Solek said, God bless you, David. Since I got to know you, I've been motivated as a young Nigerian. That is very powerful. So it goes to show that people now see David as a role model. People who have his kind of passion, desire, calling, purpose, want to, they are motivated. They have a belief that Nigeria can be better again because some of his works have led to policy change in our country. So let's take up some speakers who have indicated to speak to share their. And I'm going to start with Peter Obi, grassroots mobilization. May we hear you, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes,
all
we
right.
can.
All right. Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you, Obedient TV. Thank you, everyone here. First of all, we want to really appreciate David for all he's doing. We really want to appreciate him. He's the hero of our time. And we want to also ask and suggest if there is possibilities of him establishing an academy or kind of lectures or kind of some internships for some young persons that he has motivated so far to be learning from him and all of those things. I think it will go a long way because the society we have these days, persons like David is very scarce in Nigeria, and we need more of his types to see how we can be able to fixing the challenges we are having in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
All right, that was really quick and straight to the point. Can we have MJ Stark? Let's hear you, MJ Stark.
Hello everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, I'm just here. Mostly, I would like to start off by thanking each and every one of you, the host and the co-host, and David as well. Right, and also shout out to Dr. Jeff. I can see him in the space. Yeah, I believe so far in our country, journalism it's one of the areas which is actually lacking very much, and I'm always thankful and grateful when I see David doing what he does best. It's essentially the only. I mean, I know there are others. I mean, the people that I know about, I think David is the most prominent in the way he does his work, basically. So I'd like to thank him for that. And it's a very difficult task for anyone in Nigeria to actually stand for the truth, to put the truth first, because it's a country that has been riddled in lies and corruption. So for any one man to actually be able to be different or to stand out, it's something worth appreciating or applauding, basically, because it's not an easy feat. Okay, and with that being said, I'd also like to add that in conclusion to everything you guys are doing, I think we should talk more about, ways that we can foster journalism in Nigeria as a whole. And there are very few independent journalists. Even the TV stations, the ones I know about, let's say, okay, I won't go into the details of calling them out, but most of their journalists are actually very much partisan, and it is glaring. This is the political season, for example. You can see most of the journalists in these big TV stations, they already have let's say, a preferred candidate or people who they are supporting. And from their conversations, from their presentations, you can see every day who they support, what they stand for, and it is appalling. Journalists are supposed to be non-partisan. It's okay to be affiliated to, you could support someone because you want to support them. But when you're a journalist in a national television or one of the biggest televisions in the country, you shouldn't be partisan for any reason. David is more or less an independent journalist, so I can excuse him if he's partisan. He also has a level of integrity that allows him to call anyone out, regardless of their political affiliations or party. It's someone I can trust with that. I'm pretty sure if anyone does something out of order, he would be the first to call them out for it. And that is what it should be. That is the way it should be. Yeah, sorry for digressing from the actual topic. I just believe we should be more, we should take journalism more seriously. If you follow everything that has happened just over the weekend, I mean the rallies, the in the political sphere, I mean, of course, several things happened, but it's very much underreported. You can only imagine if half of the things that have happened, if they were actually happening within the PDP or the APC, all for them, I mean, it would be all over the media. I'm talking newspapers, television stations, like it, you can't even breathe. They would literally put it in your face. But right now, since it's happening to the, I mean, to a different party, you can hardly see it. We all know about it here on Twitter because this is more or less a private space where citizens can push their own conversations and all of that. But other than that, none of these TV stations or newspapers are actually pushing the
I'm
right
so sorry
news.
to cut you, MJ Stark. Your time is running out, so please round up.
Right, okay, I'll round up. In conclusion, what I would like us to do is to be more objective and constructive in the way we analyze the situation. Yeah, and most importantly, for the upcoming elections, I think we should be more focused on avoiding violence or inciting some fight or hatred. I also saw earlier today some attacks on a certain political people, the Labour Party. A few of their supporters were attacked and beaten in Lagos State for nothing else other than supporting the candidate of their choice, which is basically their constitutional right. So I don't see any reason why that should be okay or why it should be allowed to stand. I mean, if there is anything we can do, this is the right time for us to start doing that. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I would yield the mic at this point.
Thank you very much, MJ Stark. And taking out from what you said, I would like to add that independent journalism, because I'm a media person and I know how much gagging goes on in that space. I know very much that he who pays the piper is dictating the tune in Nigeria. And not very many license owners to broadcast, to publish, are actually core media people. So there's this aspect of people who are into it purely for business, not out of passion or purpose. Let me use the word purpose because I like what David said, that the burden of purpose was on him. And at every time he leaves that aspect of investigative journalism, something brought him back. And the report on the Abuja kidnapping of ladies was what just set him back fully, and he stayed with it. So investigative independent journalism is what makes that difference. He's able to do this because if you see, there's no much bureaucracy between him and when his stories get out. But if you're a reporter starting your career and you have this kind of passion, there's an approval process before your story can come out on print, on television, or radio, or even if you're working with a publication, it has to be approved. And the editor, the final gate man that will allow you to publish or broadcast, also has superiors in most times, or have political affiliations, or have friends that they don't want the stories to put death on. So I want to believe that the life of David will, ginger, let me use that word, will bring people out, embolden them to start independent journalism. And I am looking forward to how David is going to tell us about how to sustain your independent journalism so that you don't burn out. Because once you are not able to fend for yourself, it can also make you unable to carry out that desire to liberate certain people or certain practices through the works of your hands, through your write-ups, your writings, through your publications, and the reports that you're able to create. I like what David said. There are so many areas that have in that have dire need of investigative journalism in Nigeria. That you can just put up a report and it will expose the rot in that system. But now the main thing is how does he handle the burden of truth? Because it comes with repercussions, it comes with counterattacks. I see sometimes the comments on his section and how people are defending the obvious. People for so many reasons will come after you, will come against you, will want to sue. Is it because he's not in Nigeria? If someone chooses to be in Nigeria, can they do independent journalism without being targeted, without their family members being targeted? So these are the questions that we would want to, dig into. The burden of truth. It comes with a burden. For you to expose something that someone has been feeding on, that they have built their resources on, their livelihood on, and that rot needs to be exposed, and you want to go and expose it, you are going against the tide, because the normal thing is people just want to continue doing what is easy, what brings them money. And you want to come and say, no, this is affecting lives, this is affecting the country, this is affecting the economy adversely. Let's change it. I remember the book by Dr. Ngozi Okonjo, Fighting Corruption is Dangerous. I'll encourage that a lot of us here to get a book and read. It shows the burden that is on people who want to reform the sector, who want to change the way things are being done. I think I have spoken for
Sorry,
a
Judith,
long
can you hear me?
time. Yes, I can now. I can. Let's take on. Wait a minute, I can hear you.
Problem. Just check your DM.
Hello.
Please.
Okay then.
Hello.
Hello. So let's
Please,
take on.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Judith. Please don't unmute your mic. Right? If you have something important, a hurry of some sort, you can send a DM. Thank you, Judith. The mic is yours, please. And David is having network issues. He apologized, but yeah, that's the situation. You cannot predict these things most of the time. But please, bear with David and let's see if he can connect. If he cannot, then okay, that's fine. We'll just keep the space going and talk about journalism in Nigeria and the truth about journalism. Basically, the truth of anything in this country, because we all know how this country is. You speak, you get in trouble. You don't speak, you get in trouble. That being said, I'm just going to give the mic to Judith. I hope Tolu is back because Tolu is also having
Yes, I am.
network issues. All right. I guess everyone is here except David. Okay, moving on.
Okay. Welcome, Judith. Thank you for that talk that you just gave before when me had to speak. That was quite revealing because it then, brings us closer to the topic and brings more perspective to it. We're looking at the burden of truth, and in a way, we're all burden bearers of this reality as far as we stand for what is good. And I see a lot of obedience, in that camp. And one of the reasons why we have David as our speaker today is because he's one of the obvious burden bearers of truth in our country. But then let's even look at it on the very grassroots level. Things that David, for instance, he uses his investigative journalism to expose the ills in different sectors in the society. But the truth is that we all, one way or the other, we are functioning in those sectors or different sectors. And in our sectors, we know what goes on, we know what obtains there. And if we would pride ourselves as truth bearer, the question is how? have we been able to stand for the truth and uphold the truth, right? And I know that we all, in our different ways, have experiences to share, stories to tell, challenges that we've gone through, persecutions that we faced for standing for what we believe in and what we believe in as truth. So right now, I'll be taking more speakers while we still wait for David to join us back. I know a couple of speakers are already here, so I'll take the next person. Just give us your own contribution in 2 minutes to this topic, the burden of truth in Nigeria. How have you been able to express or exercise that responsibility as a citizen? I can see Jakuta here. Jakuta has been here for a while. So Jakuta, if you can hear me, kindly unmute your mic and the mic is yours. Go on. Okay. Seems Jakuta is not available at the moment. So also here is Mr. Great.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Jakuta, go on.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank the host and everyone who's here tonight. I just would like to
I think
re-echo.
Jakuta is having network issues. Okay. I'll just give him
Can't
a
hear
couple
me?
of seconds, and if he does
Wow.
respond.
Wait, can you? I can hear him actually.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said earlier, I was just going to re-echo what the first speaker said, because that was the point I was going to get at, which is we need to expand on what David is currently doing. It's such phenomenal work. In Nigeria, we have a cultural problem, a deep-seated cultural problem, and to change that, we need revolutionaries like David, pioneers who are going to push the frontier and take the bull by the horn, so to speak, because change is not going to happen on its own. It has to be initiated. It has to be nurtured. So if there is a way to get David to set up some sort of an academy, nurture others to do what he does, give them the tools, the ideas to do what he does, set that fire burning. I think it will be great. It will be a wonderful way to begin to engineer change in the way Nigerians think and the way we approach issues and deal with the problems that we have in our society. Thank you very much. I just want to keep it brief and simple. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Jakuta. Very much welcome. And I'm sure one way or the other that is going to get to David. Okay, we move on now to another person. I see Mr. Great. I was going to bring you up before. So kindly take the mic and speak to us. What's your perspective about the burden of truth in Nigeria? Our last speaker just referenced the fact that there's a cultural flaw. And I also recognize that because it seems like people tend to embrace lies when it favors them, regardless of who is in truth. You can share your experience with us or just your contribution, Mr. Gray. If you can hear me, kindly unmute your mic and speak to us. Okay. I think you would join us again. And then we just move on to the next speaker. 2 minutes. IK Dick Anthony. I see you here also. Kindly unmute your mic. The floor is yours.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. Mine were questions for David. I don't know if we're gonna have him back soon or if somebody's writing down questions. I will want to use the 2 minutes to put in contributions or to ask questions. Also, I want to suggest I've been in spaces where this happened. Maybe we can crash the space and start it again and see if you'll be able to join in. Not a wonderful suggestion, but I've seen it, help. but mine are questions. So I'm just gonna, stay and wait for him to come back, or except somebody is writing them down.
Okay. At the moment, we're still currently looking for how we can still bring him in. If we would need to do as you have suggested, we would let you know and get on with it. But for now, we're trying to just take contributions and not questions. So when we have David join us, we'll let you take your question. And having said that, let's move on to the next person. I have Witty Nigerian here. By the way, thank you very much, IK Anthony, for speaking. We'll let you back when David is here. Witty Nigerian also wants to say something. The floor is yours. Hello, Witty Nigerian. Can you hear me? Okay, then we'll just move on to the next person. Pablo Akpos. I see you here. Kindly unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Witty Nigerian. Pablo, please hold.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you. Go on. Witty Nigerian, I can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, I think this is a network issue because the experience I'm having over my mobile device, I can barely hear anyone talking. So I logged in from my web space and I'm able to hear the stream. So I'll be using my mobile device to talk. I'm having issues connecting from my web stream. So here is what gives. First of all, hearing David speak, I was able to connect to some aspects of his talk today. He talked about how he had to kind of seek asylum outside this country, all because of his legitimacy of his work. I see the passion, and I must say, I appreciate him, and I am highly inspired. First of all, from the software ecosystem, software development ecosystem, and I stumbled upon one of his posts. I want to very quick. One of his posts is about saying the truth when it comes to the election, though he's not looking at it in retrospect, but futuristic about it. And this has to do with creating multi-surveillance system, easily affordable and easily implementable by Nigerians. We do not want a system where the government gets to control the surveillance, so they don't get to control what we see. And this goes a long way to saying the truth. And I must say to every listener here, this stuff David put up, and he said there is a device which every Nigerian can get to purchase, 50K per device. First of all, I'm not a marketer. I just saw this idea randomly and I like it. And I would want to, first of all, when he comes in, I may not be online after now, I would like him to expand on how we can get this implemented, because it's not just about making the device affordable. It's not just about making the device available. How can we have Nigerians, everyone who can afford to have this device? That is one. This will go a long way. I will try to DM him because my team, my people, we work on stuff like this. It's not about the money. I think we can help, and there are many Nigerians out there that can cut down on the cost of this device, making it as low as, let's say lesser than 20% of the original money posted there. So every Nigerian can even save up and get that device. It's just like a spy cam. Everyone can have it on themselves, and we have multi-streams categorized from different polling units. That would help. I think that's my 10 cents. The next of what I'll do is to try to reach out to David to see how we can put in as much effort as we can concerning this. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Witty Nigerian. You gave us an angle to it from tech perspective. And kindly mute your mic if you don't mind. Witty Nigerian, kindly mute your mic. There seems to be some feedback from your end. No. Okay, so moving on. Yes, thank you for that observation and for that contribution again. We're moving on to the next speaker. And for those that are just joining, it's 9 p.m. We've been here for an hour talking about the burden of truth in Nigeria. David Hundeyin has been here with us, or he was here with us for about 30 minutes, talking about his journey into investigative journalism, the challenges that he faced, and we were hoping to get more from him Unfortunately, we lost him at some point due to network issues. Still waiting for him to join us. But while we wait for that to happen, we're taking your contributions, and we have people, lining up to make contributions. Right now, we're not taking questions because David is not here to answer those questions. However, we are of the belief that a lot of us here are truth burden bearers, and we are in one way or the other in our own space influencing our, space to be tilted or to yield towards the truth. So share your experiences or your perspectives on how we can, be more of a truth-telling country, nation, society, and influence your generation. So we're taking speakers. I have another person here, Stephen. Oh, yeah, Pablo. Apologize for that. Pablo Apos, you were the next speaker. Kindly unmute your mic. It's all yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening. We can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, quickly, yeah. I want to say, truth you see, it's difficult to say. Yeah, that's why you find a lot of obedience as truthful people. That's why the first place you find out that David Hundeyin is an obedient. You understand? Because it's hard to say the truth. And we have a cultural problem, like others have said here. Because whether you like it or not, take it down to our religion, you find out that it's very difficult to look in the face of an elderly and tell him or her that this thing you said is a lie. This thing is abominable. Like in the north, they will say it's haram for you to look in an elder's face and say you are a liar. This thing you said is a lie. So having to come out, stand out of the crowd to be a truth bearer, you'll be isolated. That's one thing for sure. You'll be sidelined in a lot of things. So the burden of truth in Nigeria is not, just you'll be outcasted if you say the truth in most times. So we have a cultural problem first. When you lie down to greet someone, immediately he turns, you raise mouth to say look at him or her and stuff like that behind people and stuff. It's not really, our greeting does not really tell who we really are. It's the ability to say wrong from right is who we really are, and that's where Nigeria is moving to. If you find out more of these people who support other presidential aspirants, you won't find them as truthful people because they lie in the face of the obvious. What is obvious? They defend the obvious for their selfish interest. So the truth, saying the truth, if you find out someone who says and stands for the truth, that person is a champion, is a hero. Like you see, David couldn't have stayed in Nigeria. That's why journalism in Nigeria is gone, is dead. Believe you me, a lot of us will not tune in some TV stations today that you want to listen to news because there's nothing you will get from there. You know that this whole people, this whole TV station has been gagged. You know that they won't say things the way they are. So when you find someone who stands for the truth, that person is a threat to his family, is a threat to society. So it's crazy having to be a truth bearer. It's a problem. It's a problem. You find out that most people that says truth, that tell you white for white, they are always isolated. They are always in isolation. They are always problem to their circle of friends. They'll be like you now. The people they claim to be the smartest people in Nigeria are those ass leakers. I don't know if that's the right word to use. Those are the smart people. Those people that go behind you to stab you in the back just because they want to be closer to the boss and stuff like that. Those are the smartest people that those are the people that our society have now almost accepted as the smartest people. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm saying
All
this from a
right.
place of pain because I, I I I find myself in such situations a lot of time, and I will
Okay.
always be there to say this is wrong and this is right. At the end of the
All
day,
right.
you just be on your own. So
All
I
right.
yield the mic. I want to
Thank
say
you
thank
very
you,
much,
David,
Pablo.
for
Thank
continuing
you
to work
very
with
much,
you.
Pablo.
You're
Thank you. And
welcome.
to everyone listening, we appreciate you for being here this far. We're still looking at how we can run this with David joining us. But then we're taking your perspectives, your contribution, your experiences, most importantly, because people have experiences, not just David, people have experiences of when they're trying to stand for what they believe in, especially in terms of talking about the truth, the victimizations that they've experienced, and that brings to question how we can change our society to uphold the truth. And these are the things that we want to listen to. And by the way, let's avoid name calling. I mean, let's just stick to the conversation and make good points. 2 minutes or even less would be appreciated if you can make a contribution. So still taking people that would speak. We have Stephen Akatuba. Stephen Akatuba is here. Kindly unmute your mic. The floor is yours. Make your contributions.
Okay, good evening. Can anyone hear
Good
me?
evening. Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, first and foremost, mine is just first and foremost, I want to appreciate David for the work he's doing. And if not for David, a lot of stories that were told will just be swept under
Hello.
the carpet. And
Hello.
the job, hello,
We can
can
hear
you hear
you.
me?
Go on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for accepting my request. I really appreciate, such media. It's bringing up topics like this. I want to say and also contribute to.
Please hold.
Can you hear me? Can everyone hear
We
me?
can hear you, but
Okay.
hold on, please.
All
Stephen
right.
was speaking. Can you allow
Okay,
Stephen finish what he was saying before? Please,
okay,
Stephen, go on. Thank you.
No problem.
okay. So, like I was saying, um, the job David is doing, if not for David, a lot of stories will be swept under the carpet and a lot of destiny will be changed for life. But for the good work he's doing, those stories came to limelight, and a lot of people would have been enslaved for life. Um, Take for instance the NCDC bill, and some other stories. I followed the story of there was one story of terrorism linked to one top official in 2021 thereabout. I followed that story and I was intrigued. That was when I started following David. Now let's now come back to this issue of investigative journalism. Like the first speaker actually said, um, I would really encourage if a platform like this, a platform for mentorship, can be set up to mentor people who have this drive, because there are a lot of Nigerians who have this drive for investigative journalism, but the system suffocates them, like Judith rightly said, approval upon approval, and these people, they are not self-sustaining. And you will agree with me that David will find a way to self-sustain himself. That's why a lot of these things could come to a limelight. If not, the system, Nigeria will just shut those things off the space and nobody will have a glimpse of them. So that that aspect of mentorship and trying to give those people who have this drive an opportunity to be able to fend for themselves and um, uh, put up, put down their story and put down their findings, and these things come to limelight. I really, really want to buttress that point that it should be taken seriously, so that people who have this same drive that David has can tap into it, and we can start seeing more stories about different sector. And this, as a matter of fact, this work is the fight to take back Nigeria this kind of investigative journalism is a very crucial aspect of taking back Nigeria, because if we're not finding out things, there's no way we can take back Nigeria. We'll just take back one particular sector while the corruption keep rotting, keep taking down the other part, the other aspect of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephen Akatuba. It's nice having you here. And let's just move on to the next speaker. Of course, you raised some important points, which we've heard from a previous speaker, and that is about mentorship. And like I said, this will get to David. He's probably working on something like that, or this will inspire him to put that in his bucket list. All right, now, it's beautiful that we've been talking about contribution. I mean, things that you think about this. I want us to talk more about our experiences, right? And I know there are people here that have had one-on-one experiences about bearing that burden of truth, being the scapegoat, for instance, or the persecution that follows it. I look at what David does. Even though a lot of us here will applaud the good job he does, we have many Nigerians that will still criticize him, right? So that is obviously a flaw of humanity. No matter how good you are, people would condemn or criticize you. But you, in your own space, as a citizen, as an individual, what are the experiences you've personally faced while trying to fight and be a vanguard for truth? The next speaker I'll be bringing on is Madiche. Madiche, if you can hear me, Madiche Henry, kindly unmute your mic. Would love to hear you speak. Hi, Madiche, can you hear me? All right, we'll move on to the next person now. I have Chudi Darlington. Mecca, Chudi Darlington, if you can hear me, kindly unmute your mic.
Good evening.
Good
evening, please.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay. I am just glad to be on this space. I'm not feeling very fine, but I'll be on any space that's talking about the truth. Something for sure, we know we've always had burdens of the truth burden globally, not only in Nigeria. That's why we had the appetite run and we had a whole lot of things. But there are some truths now that will no longer be seen a burden, or will no longer be a burden. One truth is that Nigeria is 62 years old. We sell oil, we have assets, and yet we do not have an account balance. We don't have lights. We don't have food on our table. We don't have good accessible roads. We don't have good health care. We don't have even good quality education that could be affordable. And yet we seem like we should be rich. That is a truth. And however you see it as a burden, is everybody's burden. And then another truth is that it would have been obvious that the managers before now didn't manage these economies well for us to be up to 62 years old and we are impoverished and still in the classed society. Another truth is this: there is an election coming up. It is between PDP, APC, and Nigerians. You see, the Nigerians have shown an example of what it meant. The truth is clear, and we've put the truth to test at different ways. We have had multiple million matches. These matches mean that we are saying we are sick and tired of getting sick and tired of the system. That is a truth that can no longer be a burden. So if we start to say different experiences we had that had not, augured well with, or that tried to prosecute the truth or abrogate the truth or become a total abortion to the truth in this system, we may not end tonight. But let us face the truths that can no longer be a burden. The change whose time has come to change the system is now the change that is available. And everybody who wants to accept the truth or who wants to unburden the truth would simply say, Nigerians would win in the next election. Nigerians should put all hands on desk. Nigerians should make a Nigerian win this election for us to have a Nigeria, or else we would not have a Nigeria. That is a truth that can no longer be a burden. So, however we say it, I'm talking about spying, cybernetics. We are all spies. Every structure of Peter Obi is already a spy. Let me give an instance. In my boot, you cannot bring the BVAS and somebody pen this is his thumb and he becomes the 483rd person. No, the first person should be the 00001. After that, we'll count from there. The only number we have, as INEC is capturing to send to the server, I will be capturing to send to servers like the ones we have made available. That will be a truth that will no longer be a burden the next election. I wouldn't want to say plenty, honestly, I'm not feeling very strong. I would just want to listen. But may the God that guides with the truth guide us through this deliberation, that we will come out with fruitful deliberations. So help us God.
Thank you so much. That was a brilliant contribution there. Thank you very much, Chidi Darlington. And I like the perspective that you brought on board, talking about even in the forthcoming elections, how we can all be representatives of the truth, even in our polling units, right? Ensuring that people are properly counted. I mean, votes are properly, monitored and everything goes accordingly, and not just people cutting corners. That's just one of the ways, the many ways that we can represent truth or bear that burden of truth in our society. That was a very ingenious, beautiful contribution. We're still taking experiences, right? Because the topic is the burden of the truth. And we would hold this for as long as possible before we come to the end of the room, because we still hope that David Hundeyin is able to talk to us. He had incredible things to say, and we can't wait to hear more of that. Right now, I have a couple of people still on the speaker board. This time around, I'll be passing the mic on to the million. Oh my, okay, yeah, the $1 million girl. The $1 million girl, if you can hear me, unmute your mic. Would love to hear you talk to us.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's good to be here. The burden of truth in Nigeria is a lot to carry. I'm just gonna comment from the personal perspective because so we have the general elections coming, and for the first time since probably 1993, we have a high percentage of young voters. But I've been carrying out a little bit of research and I've been engaging a whole lot of adult generation, the demographic from 35 upward. And one thing I've noticed is, okay, so 35 to 45 might still be a little bit approachable when it comes to discussing what they expect from whoever wants to become the next president of the country, the next candidate of the country, what their political views are. And it's so concerning that you can't speak the truth to someone that does not even want to know it, someone that does not even get his or herself involved, someone that has left it to the ends of affairs of the whole federation to some set of people to just take control of it and do whatever they want with it. It's very, 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 very concerning. So I can imagine people, and this is me personally speaking. So I can imagine people that, and I'm speaking to probably family members, friends, neighbors. I'm letting them see, oh, okay, so this is why I'm supporting my candidate. This is what's going on. You should just get yourself informed, read more articles. Okay, wait, compare this candidate, compare this. What are your views? And all I can get is I don't care. I just know that my candidate is the best. I just know it's gonna deliver. And it's very disappointing. uh, I can imagine people in the real journalism field hemisphere and in the real journalism status quo what they have to go through. And like one of the speakers said, um, journalism in Nigeria is so dead, if I permit me to say, which makes it quite scary because you put the truth out. Yes, people will definitely talk, but it's a pity that uh, even when they know you just did something right, they don't even want to feel concerned because they feel like if he can face his front now, he can do something else. So I would just like to encourage anybody on this space that has been obedient and has been because like someone that under speaker said, this is Nigerians versus APC and the other political parties. Pardon me, please. Let's just continue putting it out there. I have always been looking forward to this revolution rather. And if this is the beginning of it, let's keep on. Let's keep on speaking the truth. We can do it by talking to our family members. We just need to go to the smallest form of socialization, which is home, schools, religions organization, traditional organizations. We just need to move as gradual as possible. Thank you very much.
Very much, $1 million girl. So let's hear from IK. His hand is up. IK, let's hear you. You want to share your experiences, or you want to talk about the burden of truth? And right after IK, we're going to X-ray Peter Obi. Most of us obedient see him as one that is shown capacity to bear the burden of truth. So let's chew on that aspect of the conversation as we move in that direction. And with the hope that David is still going to join us, let's hear IK tell us his own perspective to this important topic.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, irrespective of where you are listening from. The topic, the burden of truth in Nigeria. I want to explain. I was driving. I didn't hear all what David was saying, but I remember him saying on his comment, he said he could go back to his copywriting and back to his stuff. I need to explain something to all of us. In Nigeria, truth is not wanted. If we live in a sane country, saying the truth won't be a burden. Imagine I am David and I'm in what I'm doing. I would have gotten a series of attacks. I won't be sleeping in my house. The burden of truth is now looking dangerous because of the society we are in, because of the country, how the country has been governed for 16 decades. Someone told me, why don't I japa? And I explained, it's not everybody that can afford to japa. And for those that cannot afford to japa, there is a hope through a candidate that we have to fight, strive, through any means, whatever way we can reach, with this truth to have a country that can be sane again. Let nobody deceive anybody that there's nothing happening in Nigeria. There's a lot happening. And it is this truth we must do anything within our reach to save this country. I've already chatted with David already long ago, I think in the morning. I remember someone talk about the camera. Yes, 50,000 naira might not be affordable. Me, I will get that. I've told him personally, I'm going to get the camera from the polling unit. I wish it can be available. So in every polling unit in Nigeria, there must be that camera. Why? Let me bring an experience of my state in Imo State. Hope Uzodinma became governor of Imo State because of the burden of truth. He was fought after the election, but he came out with proof and challenged the election. In court, he was fought. And because those who were second and third had no interest, Hope Uzodinma became governor of Imo State. So for this election, 2023, with all the effort we have done, we should not relax. We need this to be able to get this truth, should in case if there is anything manufacturing in this system, that has been falsely transmitted. We can go back to read, rewind, watch, then later present it and win a case. Presently in Nigeria, security-wise speaking, if you look at it, let me compare with other same countries and Nigeria. If there are cameras on the, not cameras on each houses, each shops, on the streets in every area of Nigeria, it would have reduced a lot of crime, because whatever any policeman does, either by intimidation, it will be captured. It will be captured from the beginning to the end, to the letter. Whereby even if you've done it and you've gone, someone can bring out footprints. Now, this, in every mentality of every human being, it reduces your mentality of going to court crime and exposes a lot, that saves the country. For this election, we need to apply the same thing, beg of every. If there is need to do crowdfunding, we need to do it. The polling units are how many? We need to raise money. Collectively, we can raise money to achieve this aim. If it is too big for one person, we can collectively raise money. I used to not abuse. I used to mock my mom, who is a pastor. Since I became an adult, I used to mock her with some sense. I would say, Mommy, every Sunday the church is cashing out, and I don't see what they use the money to do. I say, if you have 1 million members all over Nigeria, 50 naira offering times 1 million is 50 million naira. 50 naira offering times 1 million members is 50 million naira, which everybody can raise at ease. And you are still in the same situation, and the church cashed out 50 million. And what did they do to help you? There's no factories built by churches, nothing to create employment. On this fight, we just need to do whatever we can do. We are not Labour Party or P2B, because we want this truth to conquer whatever evil plans by these evil politicians. We need to labor. If we need to raise funds to achieve this, let's do this. Special people, if you like, create a Telegram account. I think Telegram should be able to take up 1 million persons. You can create a Telegram account and put people there. I will join up. Do things, and just when we raise a specific need, we meet it, we move ahead. We cannot wait. Time is not on our side. Let's not look at it as if the election is still ahead. No. We still have time. No, we need to make haste while the sun shines as quick as possible. Maybe I saw him made that tweet, immediately private that him, because I think once in a while we always talk. I beg of you, I beg of everyone. The body of truth in Nigeria, it's not something we can even laugh about. Presently, somebody was picked up in Oshodi today. While I was listening to your space, I went online and I saw somebody was picked up in Oshodi today, a flat boy, and the boy said he was almost burnt because he was carrying obedient flag. Maybe he was alone with his camera boy. And there is something, why has this rally been peaceful? Especially Lagos, that have refused people from even putting posters for other parties. Why it has looked peaceful? Because of the number. Touting or Togri, I'm sure in Lagos State there are not more than 200,000. Wherever people are coming out for this movement, you must be in number. I speak with a security state of mind. Wherever you are, a military person cannot be moving out and you see him moving, you must move in numbers. They have a goal. So they cannot attack one until you attack everybody. The same thing must be happening now. Whatever you are doing, don't be alone. As you are, that flag boy, I told him, I sent him a reply. Now you have seen it. I thank God for spending your life. What you need to do next is, as you are trying to recruit those flag boys, get yourself in your numbers, 20, even if you're not up to 20. Get yourself, be in numbers and do it. Don't be alone. Because there are people who are not happy. These truths that we're trying to sell out, pass to everybody. It is not alone. Spiritually, I know his wife is backing him up. We too have to use our eyes too. We have to be smart. We have to outsmart the devil. Understand their devices and outsmart them. Thank you very much. I hit the mic.
Wow, thank you for that. I like the angle that he delved into about how the flag boy was almost burnt. I mean, this is even someone who doesn't speak. He just carries a flag. This there's a huge burden when you go against a huge burden that you bear when you go against what a certain set of people hold as their own truth. And you know that that's not truth. I mean, why can't somebody just express his own political rights? Why would you, for carrying a flag, for God's sake? Or is it a fallout of the huge turnout of people yesterday? And this is now a new device or method to deal with people. Lagosians have to be free. Nigerians have to be free. So we are going to take on the next speaker. Hello, Emeka. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to appreciate the host and the co-host, and a big kudos and thanks to David Hundeyin for the work he's been doing. Uh, in his pursuit for truth, justice, and equity in the country. David reminds me of the days of Ray Eku, Delegiwa, and Newswatch, when these people try to, like, a group of journalists try to, like, expose uh, the corrupt practices of certain people, and we all know the story of what happened to Delegiwa. So I keep praying for David every day, for this wonderful young man, what he has been doing in the country, and his efforts to, like, expose the um, corrupt practices. You see, the rot in Nigeria, in the fabrics of the Nigeria system is so deep that I mean, it's the burden of truth is heavy. Is massive in Nigeria. So I really thank him for what he's been doing. I will want to, like, direct our interest to why this is happening. The only problem, the one issue I can see is that certain individuals in the country have become so powerful. They are more powerful than our institutions. If only our institutions can be empowered, then we will be able to address these truths, address injustice in our societies. For instance, the Gulf War windfall. We all know the Pius Okigbo panel investigated, researched, and came up with what happened with the windfall. Until today, nothing has happened to the culprits that were pinpointed in the embezzlement of the oil of the Gulf War oil windfall. David has done a lot of research, he's done a lot of publications with evidence, documentation, and everything. If the institutions in Nigeria are powerful enough, what stops the justice system from taking it up and prosecuting the individuals he has mentioned in his publications? So it's not only just coming up with the truth, it's having institutions that are strong enough, especially the judicial system, strong enough to, like, punish evil doers in the society. So we have a very, very long way to go. Now, talking about personal experience, I'll give you a personal experience of what happened to me in the year 2015. I was with my mom and my sister. We hired a Sienna bus. We were going to the east from Lagos, and the driver that was driving us had all his papers complete. We were driving down, and this mobile police, the SARS period, and all these people, the mobile police stopped this young man, asked for all the documents that were needed. This guy produced it, and this policeman still stopped him, did not want to let him go. All along, I was sitting next to the driver. I kept quiet. My mom and my sister were behind. And this policeman still delayed our driver, did not want to let. That was when I stepped in. I said, "Oh, what do you want? He has shown you everything. Do you know what came out of his mouth?" He said, "You, I'll fall out with you now and nothing will happen." Of course, every Nigerian knew what that meant. That was a serious threat. Then, thank God for my mom and my sister that we started begging him. We all know what he meant. He could waste me there and nothing will happen. Like he rightly said, I got his name tag, I saw his number, I memorized it. Ideally, in a sane society, I should be able to like report this man because I have eyewitnesses that heard what he said. He threatened me. It could be subtle, but we all knew what would happen. Was a man with a gun. That kind of a man, I should be able to report him, take it up against him, and get him prosecuted. But we know in Nigeria it will not happen. So the truth in Nigeria is heavy. So my own hope and wish for Nigeria is to have emboldened and strengthened institutions whereby a poor man can have justice. A layman or somebody that hasn't got any financial muscles can have justice and be represented. And that's why we like to appreciate the people of his blessed memory, Gani Farahimi, Delegiwa, and I think I can put David in there in the class of these great men that are no more with us. So, David, once again, although I miss his earlier speech, I want to thank you very much and appreciate what you're doing. And God bless you and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that beautiful submission. We truly need to look at our institution. No Nigerian should be bigger than the institutions. I do delve into that aspect. The judiciary, the media, there's so much rot. But just imagine if the judiciary is truly independent and a strong institution. How much of the burden of truth will rest on the shoulders of the individual? There will be more cases of justice. For example, look at this guy that was the flag boy. A society where there is justice, they will have to look it up and investigate as to why he was beaten up. Well, that would be another story for another day. I have a couple of hands up. Let's hear from Joseph Nix. I hope I pronounced your name well. Joseph Nix, let's hear you.
Well, thank you so very much, Judith, for giving me this opportunity. And I want to say, Barack Obama said one thing. He said, Africa don't need strong leaders. They need strong institutions. And not until, like the last speaker said, not until we get that right in Nigeria, nothing will work. And I said to somebody the other day, I said, if Nigeria gets it right, South Africa gets it right, the entire continent will get it right. And I want to speak to the young people what you guys are doing. I'm in my 40s, so I don't consider myself a young man. I'm a middle-aged man. I never thought that I would see this Nigeria. I've been gone for close to 30 years now. I left, came to study, and I've always wanted to go back. But each time I look back, I said, oh my God, things gets bad year in, year out. And whenever I had the opportunity to travel around, and when I carried that passport, that green passport, in a flight of about 300 people, I will be singled out as a criminal. And this is the treatment I'm getting every now and then, every now and then. It got to a point, I said, man, I am fed up. And when I had the opportunity, thank God, I left and I dumped that passport. And I decided to, I said, because enough is enough. I said, when will these people get it right? I said, now, during my time when I was growing back, we didn't even have cell phone, we didn't have social media, we didn't have anything. And I kept asking myself, where are the young people? They have the most powerful tool in their hands. Are they not going to take back their future? At the point I lost hope, but when this movement started, and I said yes, especially when the NSAS started, that was just like the mini Arab Spring. And I said, yes, these young people, they are getting it now. Then now, this one now came up now with this obedient movement. For the first time in my life, I have a little bit of hope. And I am glad that the young people, they are ready now to take back the future. For once they have changed the narrative, they have smoked these old people now. I guarantee you now they are running now thinking of what to do. The only thing they can do is to give way. Give way so that these young people can take their future and live their life. And okay, why Nigerians thrive as soon as they leave that shore. Do you know why? Nigerians in the United States, in Europe, everywhere they go, they thrive. It is because that environment created opportunity for them to thrive. It's just like you giving birth to a kid. You send the kid to school, provide for the kid so that the kid can come out and become a good person. That is what this society is that we find ourselves in right now out of Nigeria provided for us. And we're able to thrive. So I know that this election coming, I encourage you young people, continue to march, continue to knock on doors. Whatever you can do, if you have to crawl to the polling booth, crawl to the polling booth. Your future is at stake. You guys cannot afford to get it wrong. God forbid if you get it wrong this time, that is it. Like a young man said, everybody cannot leave the country. Let me tell you why living the country is good if you have the opportunity. But for every 1 year you spend out of the shores of Nigeria, that is like 5 years you've lost back home. And it gets to a point you can't even go back anymore, just like me. Because I am scared of leaving. I am really scared. Because some of the things you see online, you can't go by road because you scared they will kidnap you. You can't go by air because most of the aircraft they fly there are the retired ones here in the United States, in Europe. These guys come by, they're like death trap. Now you can't even go by train. So then what? What? So look at the hardship. The hardship we're experiencing today in the country is because there is no foreign investor. Any country that cannot attract a foreign investor, the economy will never grow. When I was growing up, as a child in Warri, I was born, raised in Warri. Back then, you see all these expatriates, they come. We have a lot of oil companies today now. From what I heard, all these things disappear. So you don't have foreign currency coming in. They have chased all these people away. Then how do you grow? So, but anyway, well, I will round up here. When it comes to the burden of truth, it is really, really, really heavy. I don't think that it will work until we strengthen our institutions. That is only when things will work. All the media houses, they are being paid by all these these politicians. So they're not going to come up and say the truth. David is able to do that because he is really not there. If you are there trying to say the truth, they will come after you. They will come after your family. They will do stuff to scare you, so you can't do anything. But let me just round up with this. I applaud you, young people. I am praying for you guys. I know you guys are going to change it. The future belongs to you guys, and you guys will change it. And as soon as you change it, you get it right in Nigeria. I guarantee you, the whole continent is watching you people now. See what you can do. And with the help of God, I know you guys will change the narrative. And come next year now, all the continent, Africa will follow you. Thank you for the opportunity. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Joseph. It sounded very, very motivational. What do we have to say about the place of truth bearers? Setting up, a speaker said that we need to set up a kind of mentorship program for people who are bold, who want to take up the kind of roles that David Hundeyin is doing in our society today. I want us to hold that thought while I take on Ali Maman. Ali Maman, please, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ali. I'm an engineer. And I wanted to speak to you guys about this idea that we tend to conflate value with money. I understand that foreign investors are required in modern day economy, and I appreciate that. But you have to understand that the value is in Africa, and more so Nigeria, because of our population, our young population, and the quality and the education level, and obviously the health levels of our people. But you need to understand, for you to create value, you need money, but not the kind of money that you think. Foreign investors are not coming to Nigeria to give charity. That idea has been debunked, and I'm sure most people will understand if you read about the concept of money and the history of it. You understand that people don't come to Nigeria or come to Africa to invest for the sake of our people. They come to collect and extract value. Now, if the value is here, the resources are here, and people are educated enough to be here, we can create the value and the economy we wish. We just need proper leadership. The obedient movement has done the media side, or at least the organization side, and told the older generations that look, the concepts or the ways that we do things have to change. So I understand that yes, we want to attract foreign investment, but I believe that we can create inherent value by ourselves. We need to understand that to create value, you need engineers, you need people that can organize and plan, people that can raise and manage, other people of other professions. And we have them here. We do. We just need to be able to harness it. So that's my little small caveat, just know the difference between reasoning by analogy and reasoning from first principles. The current situation is, what do we want to get out of this? What we want is safety. We want safety, we want prosperity, and we want to be able to, at least compete with the outside world. If that is the case, we have all the tools. We just need to have belief, and we need to be able to be steadfast in our movement. I mean, to be at least courageous enough to ask for what we actually need. We are not asking the political or the economic elite. We're asking ourselves, say, look, what do we want, we as a people? And then how do we get it? That's all. This idea of looking for saviors outside the country has not boded well for us for 62 years. It didn't bode well for us in the 60s, it didn't bode well for us in the early 90s or the late 90s. And I don't think it's going to bode well for us if we keep looking outside for our value. So I understand and I appreciate, the idea that we need to be able to attract people. No, we just need to be safe enough to create.
The current Take Back Nigeria movement, the OB movement, has proven beyond any kind of doubt that investors in this kind of enterprise are
abundant, and a lot of them are, maybe outside the country, but it's an investment. They want to see their money work. And we put value on investigative journalism. There's value in it. There's financial value in it. And he can, while he's doing that with his platform, his new platform on YouTube, it can be expanded more, to kind of accommodate what people are saying that they want to see with mentorship, what people are saying that they want to see with training other people to do the same thing. Because we all know the Nigerian media space has too much control and influence with people in the government who, like you said earlier, dictate the tone and the tune, because they are the pipers here. But I'd like David to come up and speak to, the willingness to do this on a more economic-driven narrative. In an economic-driven narrative, he can control everything, his editorial, freedoms and what have you. And whoever is willing to buy into what he's proposing will buy into. Those that don't want to buy in won't buy in. But I bet that there are a lot more people out there who will buy in. Because at the end of the day, a good Nigeria where truth survives and changes policies and helps the environment more sustainable and more conducive for everybody works for the majority of the people, and not the current system that's for the 1 or 2 percenters that know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that they can call on the phone and get things done. We don't need that. We need, if we can even get 40%, we're not talking about 90%, get 30% of the people, that let the system work for them.